Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a new episode of my Improving Your Art series for you. The first two episodes did really good here on YouTube, which I'm so glad for because I love working in my sketchbooks. I love filling them up and practicing in them, and sharing this process with you helps me do this faster and also helps me with creativity. I'm always trying to find new ways to make my sketchbook practice more fun. I know that sketchbooks don't have to be perfect and that they are there to learn, but there are a lot of ways you can make your pages prettier, so why not do it? Also, sometimes practice can be boring, even though it is very important for an artist. Sometimes you need to be motivated to do so. So in this video I will show you 3 examples you can use to make your practice routine more fun. There are a lot more things you can do in your sketchbooks, which we will be tackling in future videos. But let's start with the first exercise. I wanted to do some graphite studies, which I really love doing. If you've watched the first 2 episodes, you saw me drawing and using graphite in a couple of different ways and for different purposes. For the subject of this video, which is based around seashells, nautical things and fish, I wanted to not just do simple graphite studies, but I wanted to make them look more interesting in the end. So I thought of something that I like to do when I work with graphite pencils, especially when I do portrait studies, which is applying a light wash of watercolor on top of my drawings. I started doing this to seal my drawings so they won't smudge. I don't like using fixative. I do put some parchment paper in between my pages, but I wanted to further protect some drawings, and so I used this technique. So when you apply a light wash of watercolor over your drawings, it seals in the graphite and it won't smudge if you go over with your fingers, and it takes away the shine that the graphite has. You have to use a small amount of paint. I use mostly water with just a tiny bit of color, and this also gives your drawing a sort of vintage look to it. And so I came up with the idea to turn my drawing studies into vintage postage stamps. Initially I wanted to just do seashells and maybe some fish here and there, but for some reason I felt like a little lighthouse drawing would fit the vintage stamp perfect, and I'm glad I included it in this page. I had a lot of fun drawing it, and it is my favorite on this page. So what I did for each drawing was making sure the values are right and there is enough contrast. When I started doing this sealing technique, my pencil sketch were too light, and then I had to add more graphite on top of the watercolor and then seal it again. There is nothing wrong with doing this. In fact, I used this kind of process for portraits, which I'm going to show you in a separate episode in the future, but knowing this will save you some time when you just want to sketch and seal quick. To have more contrast, I used some matte graphite pencils for those rich blacks. I used the Stettler pencils, but you can use whatever you like. For the watercolor part, I used my Van Gogh palette. I used a yellow ochre for the vintage look. And as I said, I used a lot of water with just a bit of paint in it so that you won't cover your pencil sketch completely. As I was doing this page, I really wanted to do more. I would love to do a spread in my sketchbook where I create different types of stamps. That would be a cool idea for stickers maybe. I will do a video on this one for sure. Leave a like or a comment down below if you want to see that, or maybe you have some more ideas on what to include in that page. I always love seeing what ideas others come up with. I thought about doing some summer inspired stamps maybe. I will work on that idea, but you see how a simple idea like this one can inspire you to do all of those other things and come up with ideas you would have never thought you'd have. That's why I think you have to work through art block, because for me at least, ideas come from working and doing things, not from sitting around waiting for ideas to come. Anyways, In the end, I added some details with some ink pens and some colored pencils to really make them look like stamps. For that, I went on Pinterest and looked at some vintage stamp just to get an idea on what to include on the finished drawings to enhance them more. Idea number 2 is another way you can make your page better looking. Instead of randomly drawing things around your page, you can divide your page in sections and fill in the rectangles with whatever subject you're studying. I've done this with seashells, flowers, insects, even a coffee theme. I love designing a page like this for my ink studies and then filling the background with a limited color palette. I used watercolors for this one, but I've also used markers in the past. This type of page layout design has a very clean look to it. This is also something you can use during Inktober maybe. I've done a coffee themed inspired page 2 years ago for Inktober with a vintage type of look. I know I tend to go for vintage looking type of things, but I really love that style. Anyways, I will include a picture of that page here somewhere for you to see. I drew some things that had to do with espresso and added lettering to it. I really love that page. Looking through your sketchbooks and seeing these pages can really inspire you on days you feel kind of stuck. That's what I was doing before filming this video. I did another seashell page like this one, which I filmed for a YouTube shorts, and once I was done with that page I was a bit upset I didn't film the whole process thing for a bigger video, and then I thought why not draw another page and include it in my next video with some other sketchbook ideas, and here we are. I'm glad I did another one of these pages. In my monthly sketchbook tour that will come at the end of this month, you will see my previous seashell studies I did before this video. I also really needed some ink practice again because I really felt rusty before this video. While I was drawing this page, I felt more loose and confident with my line work and hatching. And it was really fun doing the shading and all the line work and all the designs on the seashells. And I really like the colors that I picked for the page. I think they look really good together. I really made sure that one color wouldn't touch a rectangle next to each other, and there were colors in between, but that's just my thing. You can do it however you like. I really fixate on little things like this, and everything has to be perfect, but that's just a me thing. For the third page, I came up with the idea to design seashell earrings. I was kind of inspired by some earrings I bought to bring on vacation next month, and I thought, what if I tried to design some myself? So with this page, I wanted to let my creativity out in two ways. One is the earring design aspect, and the other one is how can I draw seashells with different mediums and experiment with colors. The first didn't turn out quite as I had imagined it in my mind. That's why later on I went back and tried to fix it. But that's what exercises like these are for, to see what works and what doesn't. The second one I did is my favorite one and has inspired me to do something with this watercolor gold painting thing. So you see how drawing one thing can lead to so many more things. For the third earring, I chose watercolor pencils, but once I layered everything, I loved how it was looking that, so I didn't want to activate what I've put down with water and change the way it was looking. So I just added a bit of water and went over with some more pencil layers and left it at that. You don't have to use these pencils with water, nobody forces you to do so. So feel free to use your mediums as you like to. There are no rules you have to follow when doing art. Maybe some, but not too many, so feel free to use your materials as you prefer. The fourth one is a bit hard to see, especially the pearls. I still have a lot to learn about filming, but I'm getting better with time. But these pearls are kept very light, almost white, so that's why they are very hard to see in the footage. For the seashells, I really enjoyed using all of these cute colors and make it super vibrant. I really used a lot of different things on this page in general. My desk was a mess afterwards. But as they say, a messy desk means you're having fun creating and you're full of ideas or something like that. Anyways, that's what I get from this. Or I'm just trying to justify my mess. No, I'm just kidding. If you're sitting at your desk and everything is perfectly in place, that means you're not producing anything right. So you have to use your stuff in order to make something, so don't be afraid to use your materials and be creative, but clean and tidy up everything once you're done. So anyways, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and you want to support me. Have a nice day, stay safe, and see you in my next video. Bye guys.